Ted Edlich has been the president and CEO of Total Action Against Poverty, TAP, since 1975. At age 74, he has no intention of stepping away anytime soon. In fact, the former minister and school teacher, a Greenwich Village, New York native who joined TAP in 1968, is kept energized by the very mission of the sprawling social service nonprofit he oversees. A graduate of New York University, Edlich also has a degree from Yale and was awarded an honorary doctorate of letters from Washington and Lee. He served on former Governor Doug Wilder's Commission on Poverty and has been named one of the 50 most influential people in Roanoke by Roanoke magazine. TAP has learned to operate in a leaner mode these days, with demand for its services perhaps greater than ever. Ted Edlich, welcome to the interview.
Thanks, Gene.
Do you have trouble explaining sometimes what TAP is, Total Action Against Poverty, exactly what your reach is, and because it seems so vast, and what your mission is? How would you describe what TAP's mission is?
Well, TAP's mission is to give opportunity to those who are low-income folks, whether the children or adults, youth, and those with some age on them. Mm-hmm. And to help them to be self-supporting and be able to have a good productive life. That's simply it. Reaching out to those who have had less opportunity, either because of they were born with less opportunity, which is a fact for most people who are poor, mm-hmm. or if they made some mistake that has created difficulties for their lives. Mm-hmm. And to help them have a good life and to help strengthen this community. Mm-hmm. It's pretty simple, actually. Mm-hmm. The difficulty we have is we have so many different programs to help to achieve this that unless you take somebody on a tour, their eyes glaze over right. at the first 5 minutes.
Right.
Because we're into housing programs, we're into employment training programs, we're into domestic issues dealing with domestic violence, and many other areas. Small business development, loan pool, so people, it's hard to kind of absorb all at one time. But the mission is simple, to reach out to those who've had less opportunity, who are in a difficult spot, and help them to get some traction for their lives.
Mm-hmm. And TAP was originally a vision of, I guess, Cabell Brand back in the 60s, correct?
Absolutely. It was a response to the Economic Opportunity Act, which was part of Lyndon Johnson's Great Society programs. And it was to be a local endeavor that was supported by federal and state and local funds. The mission was to give people the opportunity for education and training, opportunity to have a job, and to live in decency and dignity.
Mm-hmm. You're from Greenwich Village, New York, went to NYU.
Correct.
And I guess you were a school teacher and a minister at one point, and you came aboard with TAP more than 40 years ago. What attracted you to TAP, and because you became president and CEO, I guess in '75, but what attracted you to the mission of TAP?
Well, as a young person, I was looking for what I call a roadmap in reality. Mm-hmm. Some kind of.
I think we're all looking for that.
Yeah, some kind of direction to make sense out of life, and it was the Christian faith, and the person of Jesus of Nazareth, and the way he had his mission, and that was to reach out to those who were less fortunate, and to be their advocate. Mm-hmm. And I've always saw the church as acting out that mission, but that is the mission of TAP. So it was a way for me to actually express what I had come to believe.
Mm-hmm. And TAP, of course, you reach beyond the Roanoke Valley now, correct, Ted? You're in the Allegheny Highlands, Bath County, Rockbridge County, Lexington. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And we've created projects like the Virginia Water Project that has brought 200,000 wastewater connections in Virginia. We created the first pre- and post-incarceration program in the Commonwealth of Virginia, so that people had more help than just having $25 and being sent back home to make something out of their lives. Mm-hmm. We created the first college access program for low-income students who were the first in their family to entertain going to college, that is now statewide. And we created the CHIP program, which is the primary care program, so that
For children.
Right. So that people don't have to get health care through the emergency room for their child. And this is extended far beyond just our local boundaries.
Right. And really, TAP has sort of acted as a business incubator. You mentioned CHIP, VA Cares, which is the program for inmates and those who have been released. What was the Second Harvest Food Bank? Some of these programs started under TAP and then were spun off.
Absolutely. And you know, those that can operate best under our umbrella, then they ought to stay there. But those that really need to have their own kind of platform, you know, we're glad to spin off. One of the most interesting ones we've recently developed with Freedom First Credit Union is Responsible Rides.
With Freedom First?
With Freedom First. And it's also a partnership with Enterprise Car, where we have folks who have very poor transportation access, and we help them to get an affordable car that still has a warranty on them through Enterprise, finance it through Freedom First, and it helps them to increase their employment opportunities, as well as helping get their children to doctors and all the kind of things that they need to do. And we've had close to 100 people now through that project. So that's another incubator that we've most recently developed.
And I've talked to Paul Phillips at Freedom First, and community is a big issue with them.
Oh, absolutely. They've been a great partner. In fact, you know, the strength of the organization has been the development of our partnerships. I mean, we've had a great partnership with the police department, Roanoke City Police Department, and their drug market initiative, where they've gone out and they've gotten the goods on dealers, and then offered to those who they don't have felony records a chance to get their lives together by enrolling in their GED program or our Youth Build program or some other enterprise.
I know TAP's also been a landlord. I guess you've been a partner in the terrace apartments for low-income folks.
Yeah, we were the developer of the terrace apartments, 187 units of affordable housing. People pay their rent. You know, they have to have income, they have to have good credit. But we, I think, created a model project in good, strong neighborhoods, close to one of the best parks in the city, on public transportation. We're very proud of that. But that was a tough project.
How unique is TAP when you look nationwide, Ted, for the scope of what you're doing? I mean, is Total Action Against Poverty, is it a fairly unique organization, or are there many organizations like TAP?
Well, there are 1,200 community action agencies across the country, and each one has some local features. Many run Head Start programs, weatherization programs.
Which you've run Head Start programs.
Yeah, absolutely. We have 1,000 children in our Head Start programs in 20 centers throughout our area. So there are some commonalities. I think because of Cabell's vision and Bristow's leadership, who was the first executive director, we've got kind of an ethos of trying to have the largest possible impact we can. So I think we're distinguished a little bit like that, but there are many, many good organizations across this country.
Has it been more difficult in recent years for agencies like TAP? I know you've told me before you've had to run leaner, but has it been difficult for you to secure the funding that you need for certain programs and to operate certain programs? Has it been more difficult the last couple of years? Yeah,
it's the money is more difficult to get. We have been sustained by having a great grant development department, which has won a number of national awards, both in small business development as well as working with homeless veterans. So we've been able to sustain ourselves, and we've had good support from the city of Roanoke. We've just got some through our local legislators and their advocacy. There's been $500,000 set aside for community action agencies this year, and we'll get a portion of that. So it's always a tough business, but I see us as we're a nonprofit business, really, in the business of helping people. And so we have the same difficulties any kind of entrepreneurial enterprise has.
Right. I know that you've also given Congressman Bob Goodlatte kudos for helping keep the community block grant in place.
Bob has been a great advocate for us, and because he believes in this project. It's local, it's helping people help themselves, it's not a giveaway program, and it also utilizes that community service block grant to leverage many, many other dollars.
You know, whenever times get tight and budgets get kind of lean, it seems like sometimes programs like Head Start wind up sort of being political footballs and you know, social programs when they debate about cutting programs. Is that just something that you have to deal with? I mean, is that something, or do you have to go to bat when that happens, Ted, for programs like Head Start?
Absolutely. You know, and sometimes it's really silly. I mean, Head Start's really silly. I mean, obviously we need to continually to refine what we're doing in our early childhood education program, and we just recently are looking at a curriculum, Tools of the Mind, that help children to control their behavioral impulses. So we're always trying to refine. But, you know, middle-class people send their children to early childhood development programs. I did.
Preschool programs.
Preschool programs,
right.
You know, so that they're well prepared for the first grade. Well, if you do it for middle-class kids,
right,
why wouldn't you do it for low-income kids?
Especially if the results may be beneficial down the road.
Yeah, and we're working with local school systems to actually track our kids to look at the impact on the third grade, because the third grade is kind of a decider. If children can't really read, can't do their basic mathematical exercise those faculties, then they're going to have difficulty maybe for the rest of their time in school.
Right, and so you're able to, are there metrics now that you can go to people and say, hey, look, this is what we're doing, this is
We're
working.
in the process, and we're working with Dr. Craig Rainey at the Research Center at Virginia Tech, and so we're putting this in place with the help of the local school system. So it's just getting started, but we'll have some data, you know, as years go by.
I wanted to bring up a couple of things. Recent grants have gone for programs like energy conservation efforts. I know some of the TAP contractors have done energy audits. I actually went to a couple of those. A fatherhood program, employment training for homeless veterans. So again, just a very diverse group of programs under the TAP umbrella.
Absolutely. But they all have the common feature of reaching out to people who, through one reason or another, have been marginalized, lack opportunity, and we give them the opportunity for them to help themselves. That's the common thread.
Wanted to talk about TAP's involvement with something people might say, well, why is Total Action Against Poverty involved with this? But the old Dumas Hotel. How does that fit with your mission, and are you sort of hoping that the Dumas Center helps revitalize the Gainsborough area?
You know, we look at where's local interest. And you know, the civil rights movement was very much part of that 60s effort, and King was really one of the impetus for the Economic Opportunity Act, the idea that there needs to be fairness, there needs to be justice, there needs to be opportunity for those who have the least. And you know, here was a area that had been the heart of the black social life, business life, political life, religious life, and we felt, and there was a demand that something be done with the historic buildings. And so the Dumas was the result of that. Now, I tell people, you know, from an economic standpoint, was that a great project? No, it wasn't a great project. From a community development standpoint, was it a great project? It was a great project. It was the impetus for the higher education center to come and renovate the buildings on the other side of the street for the culinary center, and for the development of the Martin Luther King Memorial Bridge, which was the name's sake for Martin Luther King Jr. And it's a great memorial. Great memorial.
One thing you've told me is about that TAP has a strong shared leadership culture in place that will help keep things moving forward after you finally leave, whenever that is. So let's talk about that culture a little bit.
Well, it's a culture that I inherited from my predecessor, Bristow. And that is, you try to push decisions down, or at least involvement in decisions, to the lowest level of the organization, where the rubber meets the road. You involve everybody in a collective input on decisions. And so, in our different departments, I treat them as kind of business subsets, and so people are responsible for the development of their area. That's just what you'd have in any corporation. So I think we've combined the best of the kind of the human technology, And it's a very personal thing. People call me Ted. They don't call me Mr. Edlich.
Right.
Great story, if we have time, for Bristow. Bristow called from out of town, and he said, you know, Mr. Harden, or the operator said, Mr. Harden's making a collect call. And the person at the front desk said, well, we don't have Mr. Harden here. And he said, he yelled over the phone, he said, this is Bristow, answer the darn phone. You
right.
know?
That's
So,
the culture there.
Yeah, that's the culture.
Okay. Ted Edlich from TAP, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you, Ted, for joining us today.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate it. This is The Interview. I'm Gene Marrano. We'll be right back.